I stood in front of the mirror, tugging at the sleeves of a clearance rack dress shirt from Kohl's, trying to make it look like it actually fit. The fabric was stiff, like it hadn't decided if it wanted to wrinkle or cling. On the kitchen counter behind me sat the invitation. Thick cardstock, gold lettering, like it was a wedding. Come celebrate another year of Morrison family success. Hampton's Estate, Saturday at 5 p.m. Success. Right. My laptop was open on the table, a few tabs showing website mock-ups for a fake residential solutions brand I'd made up to explain what I'd been working on. I'd even thrown in a couple generic blueprints and a mocked-up invoice, just in case someone pressed for proof. What none of them would see, unless they dug deep through the back end of my browser, was the final legal confirmation that Morrison Realty Group had just been sold, fully acquired by an anonymous buyer. That buyer was me. Well, not me by name. Me through Ironmark Solutions, the national property management firm I'd spent the last 10 years building in silence. Registered under my mom's maiden name, Phoenix. My phone buzzed on the counter. Final contract signed. They have no idea Ironmark is you. Congrats, boss. I grinned, slid it into my pocket, and finally gave the mirror a nod. I wasn't the failure anymore. I was the owner of the empire, and no one in that house had a damn clue. Quick note, before we go any further, which country or city are you watching from? The drive out to the Hamptons felt like driving straight into enemy territory. I hit every turn like I knew them by heart, because I did. I used to mow those lawns. I used to scrub algae out of the pool filters. I passed through the gates of the estate I hadn't stepped foot on in years, and the gravel under my tires felt personal. I parked my 10-year-old Civic at the far edge of the driveway, squeezed between a silver Porsche and some custom Bentley with blacked-out windows. No doubt Eric's. He always needed something that screamed louder than him. I looked in the rear view, adjusted my collar, and laughed under my breath. Let the show begin. I stepped through the doorway like I was walking into a job interview I didn't want. Mom barely looked up before her eyes went straight to my shoes. Plain black loafers, scuffed at the toe. You made it, she said, clutching a wine glass with both hands. We weren't sure you'd show this time. I gave her a side hug and a fake smile. Had a job I had to finish up. She nodded like she didn't believe me, but was too polite to say so. Inside, everything looked exactly like I remembered. Glossy marble floors you could probably ice skate across. Walls dripping with oversized art pieces none of them could explain. And, of course, the shrine to Eric. Photos everywhere. Eric shaking hands with politicians. Eric posing with blueprints. Eric and Dad in hard hats. It was like walking through a corporate ego museum. My photo, tucked in a side hallway next to the guest bathroom. Me in 7th grade holding a paintbrush and smiling like I hadn't yet figured out they saw me as the family's pity project. Hey, Nate! A voice boomed from across the room. Eric, grinning like a game show host, strutted toward me. His shirt was open just enough to flash some chest hair, and his watch probably cost more than my whole damn car. Glad you could take a break from, what is it you do again? Home repairs? Freelance design? Websites mostly. He clapped my shoulder like I was a little league player who struck out but gave it a good try. Well, hey, we're doing a digital expansion next quarter. Might be some work for you. Presentation graphics, that kind of thing. Entry level, but steady. Appreciate it, I said, deadpan. Inside, I was picturing his stupid monitor getting unplugged and boxed up by this time tomorrow. His wife Lauren slithered up next to him, fake smile locked in place. If you ever want help polishing your resume, Nate, just say the word, she said sweetly. We know the job market's rough for creatives. She held the last word like she was too polite to say unemployed. I'll keep that in mind, I said, taking a sip of club soda. Around us, the room buzzed with talk of investment portfolios, zoning permits, development timelines, and God knows what else. Everyone was trying to flex. Everyone was trying to outboss the person next to them. I stuck close to the wall like an unplugged lamp. Dad appeared out of nowhere, holding a scotch that was probably older than me. He didn't look at me right away. Your brother's latest deal put the company over $1 billion in holdings, he said like he was reading a headline. He's talking about a second office in LA. That's great, I said, not bothering to fake the enthusiasm. You ever think about coming back? He asked, finally glancing at me. Eric said there's room in marketing. You wouldn't be in charge, but it's a paycheck. I didn't flinch. I'm good, Dad. He sighed like I'd just ruined his weekend golf game. You're 35, Nate. Time to stop acting like you've got something to prove. I looked around the room. Everyone standing tall, voices just a little too loud, fake laughter echoing off stone walls. Shiny shoes, designer suits, smug eyes darting around, like everyone was calculating who mattered most. No one looked at me longer than a second, just enough to confirm I was still a non-threat. Yeah, time's about up. Eric turned from across the room, laughing too loud at something a guy in a salmon polo said. I raised my glass in his direction and drank slow. He had no idea he'd just handed me the mic. The sun was down, and the party still dragged on like nobody had anywhere better to be. I stood near the patio door with a half-empty glass of seltzer, counting how many different ways they could pretend to help me without actually respecting me. Cousin Daniel cornered me first. You ever think about getting certified in project management? Roofing's solid work. I could train you, start you off as assistant PM. Appreciate the offer, I said, like I hadn't already bought out the guy who paved Daniel's driveway. Aunt Jenna waddled over next. There's this tech startup in Jersey. My neighbor's son works there. They need someone to do, basic graphic stuff. Nothing fancy. She slipped me a bent business card, like it was a winning lottery ticket. I tucked it in my jacket and nodded. Sounds promising. Even Mom gave it a go. She leaned in during one of the fake toasts and whispered, "Your father's just worried, you know. You could use a little structure." Structure? Like I was a crooked bookshelf she could straighten out with the right bracket. I smiled through it all, nodded when it was polite, thanked them for their concern. But every 15 minutes, I checked my phone. Final sale, confirmed. Press release, ready. Boardroom invite, 9 a.m., Morrison Realty, HQ, right on schedule. I stepped out onto the patio to breathe. The backyard looked like something out of a home magazine. Perfect hedges, backlit fountains, expensive stone walkways. I used to haul mulch for this yard, for $20 and a Coke. Now I owned the damn acreage. By 11, I'd had enough. I said a few quick goodbyes, climbed into my Civic, and drove back to the city in silence. I walked through the lobby of my actual office building, the one with Ironmark Solutions engraved in polished steel, and took the private elevator to the top floor, my floor. I peeled off the dress shirt, tossed it on the couch, and stood for a minute in front of the wall of windows, the city glowing below. This was mine, all of it. The phone rang. Marcus, my COO. "You sure you want to walk in personally?" he asked. "Damn right I do," I said. I wasn't done being underestimated. Not yet. I got to the Morrison Realty headquarters at 8:30 sharp. The front desk looked the same as it did the last time I was there. Glass, chrome, cold smiles. Only now, every inch of it technically belonged to me. Marcus met me in the lobby, black suit, calm as ever. "Everyone's in," he said quietly. "They think this is an emergency shareholder update." "Good," I said. "Let's not keep them waiting." We took the elevator to the top floor. My reflection in the metal doors didn't look like the guy they'd written off years ago. Custom charcoal suit, steel gray tie, controlled expression. My pulse was steady. At 8:59, I pushed open the double doors to the boardroom. The place hadn't changed. Cherrywood panels, leather chairs big enough to swallow you, and that portrait of Dad watching over the head seat like a monument to arrogance. Eric was already there, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight. "Who the hell are you?" he said when he saw me walk in with Marcus. "I called this meeting," I said, setting my briefcase on the table. He laughed once. "Yeah, right, security." Marcus stepped forward and spoke in his usual even tone. "Nathan Phoenix is legally authorized to attend. He's the sole owner of Ironmark Solutions." Eric blinked. "Phoenix?" Dad squinted from the end of the table. "That's your mother's maiden name." "That's right," I said, opening the briefcase. Ironmark acquired Morrison Realty as of 7 this morning. I laid the contracts on the table. Signatures, transfer filings, full confirmation. "This can't be real," Eric said, flipping through the pages. "It's real," I said. "Every document's been verified and filed. Morrison Realty is now a division of Ironmark Solutions, which is me." The room went silent. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. Dad leaned forward. "Why the hell would you do this?" His voice shook with rage. "This is betrayal." "No," I said. "This is business. You didn't think I was capable of anything else. I built Ironmark from nothing while you all laughed behind my back." Eric slammed the folder shut. "We're your family. And you offered me a PowerPoint gig," I shot back. He pointed a finger at me. "You didn't have to go behind our backs. You didn't see me because you didn't want to," I said. "You saw what was convenient. The failure, the disappointment. That's what you preferred." Dad stood up, red creeping up his neck. "You think this makes you better than us? You wouldn't even have the money to start without me." I stepped closer. "You're right. I didn't have the money. I had something better. Your underestimation." For a second, nobody breathed. "What happens now?" Dad asked, voice low and tight. "Now," I said, "Morrison Realty gets absorbed. You'll stay on as figurehead CEO for a few months. Eric, you're out effective immediately. We'll handle the public statement later today." Eric's face went crimson. "You smug—" "Don't," I cut him off, hand raised. "It's done." He stepped toward me anyway. "You think you can waltz in here and take everything Dad built?" "I didn't take it," I said. "I bought it, fair market price." The board signed off without even realizing who they were dealing with. Dad sank back into his chair, silent now, eyes on the papers in front of him. "You'll regret this," Eric said. I picked up my briefcase. "I doubt it." As I turned toward the door, Marcus handed each of them a packet. Press release drafts, transition schedules, updated leadership flowcharts. "This will go public at noon," he said. "We'll have media control ready by 11:30. I paused at the doorway. "You wanted me to stop pretending? Consider it done." Then I walked out, leaving the echo of their silence behind me. The door clicked shut. Outside in the hallway, Marcus caught up to me. "You handled that well," he said. "Better than they did," I said. He nodded once. "You're ready for the fallout?" "Been ready for 10 years. By the time Marcus and I got back to the office, the press release had already hit. 10:05 sharp. At first, just silence. Then noon rolled around. 47 voicemails. Daniel left 2 messages. "Hey man, I didn't realize you were doing big things. Maybe we could collab, like roofing integration into property management?" Just spitballing. Aunt Jenna cried into the phone for 3 straight minutes, apologized, then asked if her neighbor could still get that graphic design job. Mom didn't call, just sent a text. "You really did it." "Yeah, I did." That night, we had the family dinner I had scheduled myself. Private room at the Capitol Grill. I made sure to book it before the press went out. I made sure they'd all show. And I made sure to walk in late. Let them sweat. When I finally pushed open the door, the table went silent. Even the waiters stiffened. Dad stood first. "So, you're really behind all of this?" I nodded once. "Every bit." Eric leaned forward. "You planned this? All those years, pretending to struggle?" I met his eyes. "You weren't pretending," I said. "You believed what you wanted." He looked away first. Mom sat quietly next to Dad, hands folded, like she was waiting for someone to tell her how to react. Lauren didn't even make eye contact. The waiter came in to take orders. Everyone acted polite. No one cracked a joke. No one mentioned equity holdings. No one asked how my little freelance projects were going. We ate in silence. By the time dessert came, the room still felt like a funeral. I lifted my glass. Everyone looked up. "To family," I said, "and to finally being seen." Dad blinked, like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. I didn't wait for anyone to toast back. I drank, set the glass down, and looked across the table at Eric. He looked older already, smaller somehow, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, he looked unsure. Good. The next morning, Eric showed up at my office without warning. The receptionist buzzed me. I told her to send him up. He walked in looking around like he was touring a museum. His suit was still sharp, but his posture was off, like something had slipped. "So this is you," he said, stopping just inside the glass doors. All of it, I said, standing by the window. He gave a low whistle and walked farther in, turning a slow circle like he couldn't believe it. "I gotta admit," he exhaled, "I didn't see it coming. You weren't looking." He turned back to face me. "Why not just tell us?" I shrugged. "Would you have listened? Or would you have tried to take it over before it was ready?" He didn't answer. He knew the answer. I motioned for him to sit. He didn't, just leaned on the back of the chair across from me. "Look," I said, "you were always chasing Dad's version of success. I was building something else." He ran a hand over his jaw. "You really did it right under our noses." 10 years, I said, "while you all tried to rescue me from jobs I didn't need." He gave a half smile, more bitter than amused. "You always hated being underestimated, and you always liked doing it." He didn't argue. "What happens now?" he asked. "We integrate Morrison," I said. "Most of the staff stays. Reorg happens over the next quarter. I paused, met his eyes. "You can stay involved or not, but not as the boss." He didn't react right away, just looked down at the chair, then out the window. "And if I stay?" he asked. "Junior executive, salary, benefits. But you report to my VP of Ops." He scoffed, just barely. "That's a long fall. You decide if it's a landing or a drop." He nodded slowly, like the weight of it was finally catching up to him. "I'll think about it," he said. "Do that." He walked to the door, hand on the handle, then turned back. "You really think you're going to run this better than we did?" I already am, I said. He held my stare for a second. Then he left. I stood on the balcony of my top-floor suite, whiskey in hand. The skyline lit up like it was celebrating with me. Buildings I used to stare up at from the sidewalk now sat below eye level. The air was cool, sharp, and clean. My phone buzzed again. And again. Journalists, investors, random people from high school. I hadn't thought about in years. Even a couple exes acting like we should catch up. I ignored them all. Only one call mattered. It was Mom. "You really built all that?" she asked, voice soft, like she didn't quite believe it. "Yeah," I said. There was a pause. "Why didn't you say anything?" I looked out over the city. "You wouldn't have believed me." She didn't deny it, just stayed quiet for a long time. Then finally, "Well, we believe you now." I smiled. "Good." We hung up, no goodbyes, just silence. It felt right. I walked back inside, set the glass down on my desk, and opened the drawer. Inside was an old envelope, edges curled, label half faded. The first permit I ever filed. Nathan Phoenix, Ironmark Solutions. No one knew that name back then. Hell, no one even cared. But I kept that envelope. Not for proof, not for bragging rights, just as a reminder. While they were posting headshots and shaking hands at ribbon cuttings, I was staying quiet. They built their legacies loud. I built mine in silence. And now, I was the last one standing. Tomorrow, I'd address the merged staff for the first time. Lay out the new structure, expectations, direction. They wouldn't hear a Morrison name. They'd hear mine. But tonight, I stepped back onto the balcony and raised my glass to the dark, to patience, to power, to playing the long game and winning it. Do you think Nate went too far? Or was this the only way to get respect? Drop your answer in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more confession stories.